I have been the maître d' at the restaurant Maison Vasseur for 19 years, and in that time I have served in our private dining room on the third floor perhaps 400 dinners I am not supposed to talk about, bankers' anniversaries, cabinet ministers' birthdays, a film director's silent rage at his producer over the duck, the kind of dinners that pay for the building. I will not break my silence about any of them tonight. I will, however, break it about one dinner, the dinner at which a table of 9 city men, 3 drinks past their decency, dared my kitchen porter on a whim to sit down at the white Steinway in the corner of the private room and play, and the kitchen porter, who I had not known until that night played anything more than the radio in the wash-up corridor, walked across the carpet in his apron and his black work clogs, and gave us the most beautiful Schumann I have heard inside a restaurant in my life. I am Etienne Lavigne, I am 61. The kitchen porter was a young man named Wesley Acaffer. He was 24. He had been with us at Maison Vasseur for 11 months. He worked the wash-up station 6 nights a week, 10 hours a night in the long blue-tiled corridor behind the pass. He was a quiet, polite young man. He carried plates without breaking them. He took his break in the staff yard where he ate a sandwich he had brought from home. He had not, in 11 months, asked me for a single thing. The dinner was on a Tuesday in November. The booking had been made by a man I will call only Mr. Pemberton, who is a senior partner at a financial firm whose name everybody knows. He had booked the private room for 8 of his colleagues, plus himself, in honor of a deal that had closed that morning. They had begun drinking at 6. They had dined at 8. They were by 10 well into the brandy. They were the kind of table I have served many times, loud, fluent, used to being agreed with, generous on the bill, harder on the staff in ways that did not amount to anything you could complain about. I had spent the evening keeping the room running and keeping my younger waiters out of their direct line. I had let our most experienced waiter, Daniel, handle the brandy course, because Daniel can take what one of those tables likes to dish out without flinching. The white Steinway sat in the far corner of the private room beneath the window. It is a baby grand. It was Mr. Vasseur's father's piano. We have it tuned twice a year. The understanding in the house has always been that it is decoration. We hire a pianist for the public dining room 3 nights a week, and the private room piano is a beautiful object that the guests, on occasion, look at. Nobody plays it without permission. Permission has never been requested. At about 10 past 10, Mr. Pemberton, brandy glass in hand, stood up and walked across the carpet to the Steinway. He laid a hand on its lid. He turned to the table. "Gentlemen," he said, "we are going to have a piano. A man cannot finish a brandy without a piano." He looked across at Daniel, who was standing by the side table with the decanter. "You, waiter, send us up a pianist." Daniel said, "Sir, the pianist for this evening is downstairs in the public dining room. He is finishing at 11. Shall I send him up at 11 with respect?" 11 is too late. I want a piano now." Mr. Pemberton looked around the room. "Surely you have someone, the kitchen, the bar. Send up the kitchen porter if you have to." There was a laugh from the table. It was the kind of laugh that is not really about a joke. It was the kind of laugh a table of men 3 drinks past their decency makes when they have decided to do a thing the staff will not be able to stop. Daniel came out to the corridor. He came to find me at the maître d' stand. He told me what had been said. I went into the private room. I addressed Mr. Pemberton politely, the way I have addressed Mr. Pemberton for 9 years. I said, "Sir, the Steinway is the late Mr. Vasseur's instrument. We do not, as a house, invite staff to play it. The hired pianist will be available at 11, and I shall be glad to send him up." Mr. Pemberton smiled at me. He has a charming smile when he chooses to use it. He was choosing to use it now. He said, "Etienne, come now, I am a regular here. I have spent more in this building this year than the kitchen porter will earn in his life. Send up the kitchen porter, it will be a small kindness. I shall add an extra 500 to the bill for his trouble. Will you do me this favor?" The table laughed again. The laugh was the laugh of men who knew their host was a regular. I will tell you what was in my head in the next 3 seconds. I have been a maître d' long enough to know when I have been put in a position in which the only graceful answer is also a wrong one. I knew it would be wrong to bring Wesley Acaffer up from the wash-up corridor to be made the brief amusement of 9 drunk city men. I also knew, as I have always known, that the kitchen porter could refuse. I made a decision I have wrestled with ever since. I said, "Sir, I shall ask the porter. He may, of course, decline. I shall not press him." I went down the back stairs to the wash-up corridor. The corridor was hot with steam. Wesley was at his station. His apron was wet. He had not heard, of course, what had been said upstairs. I leaned against the doorframe. I said, "Wesley, a guest in the private dining room has asked that a member of staff play the piano in the corner of his room for 10 minutes while the gentlemen finish their brandy. I am not asking you to do this. I am bringing the question to you because I have been instructed to bring it. The guest is a regular. He has offered an extra payment for the trouble. You are entirely free to say no. I shall in fact be relieved if you do. Please answer honestly." Wesley took off his rubber gloves. He set them on the edge of the sink. He dried his hands on the front of his apron. He looked at me for a moment. Then he said very quietly, "Etienne, may I ask what kind of piano is it?" I said, "It is a baby grand, a white Steinway, Mr. Vassour's father's instrument." He nodded. He said, "And the guest?" "He has asked for the porter specifically. He has asked for someone from the back of the house. I have suggested no one. I am asking only because he has insisted there be a piano. I can put him off until 11 if you would prefer not." Wesley was quiet for perhaps 10 seconds. Then he said, "Etienne, if the gentleman will permit me 5 minutes to change out of this apron, I shall play for them. I should like to. I have walked past that piano every night for 11 months. I should like this once to sit at it. Is that all right with you?" I did not in that moment understand what he was telling me. I thought he was a polite young man who had a small private wish to touch a beautiful instrument and was using the absurd invitation as cover. I said, "Wesley, of course, take your time. I shall hold the table." He went to his locker. He came back in perhaps 6 minutes, washed and combed, in his clean street shirt under his work apron. He kept the apron on because Mr. Pemberton had specified the kitchen porter and his black work clogs. He carried himself with a small composed dignity I had not in 11 months given him credit for. We walked together up the back stairs. I held the door of the private dining room. Wesley walked across the carpet, in his apron and his work clogs, to the white Steinway in the corner. The table fell quiet. I think they had expected what? A man who would shuffle, a man who would blush, a man who would sit down, hammer out a chord, embarrass himself, and the joke would land where they had been planning to land it. Wesley did not shuffle. He bowed his head to Mr. Pemberton, a small, polite, professional bow, and said, in a voice the table could hear, "Sir, thank you for the invitation. May I ask what you would like me to play?" Mr. Pemberton, surprised, looked at his table. The table looked back at him. Mr. Pemberton said, with the unfocused largesse of a man who has been outflanked and has not yet noticed, "Anything you can manage, young man, surprise us." Wesley said, "Thank you, sir." He lifted the lid of the Steinway. He sat. He did not crack his knuckles. He set his hands on the keys. He played, into the room of 9 city men with brandy glasses in their hands, the opening of Schumann's Träumerei from Kinderszenen. I will tell you about that opening. It is 20 seconds of music. It is one of the most beautiful 20 seconds in the entire piano literature. A child's dream of a melody, slow, descending, very gentle. It is also, and this is the part that matters, one of the most difficult 20 seconds in the entire piano literature to play well because the simplicity is the trap. Every wrong note shows. Every hurried phrase ruins the dream. Every player who plays it has to decide in his shoulders that he will not be in a hurry. Wesley was not in a hurry. The first phrase laid itself into the private dining room of Mason Vassour the way a hand lays itself, very gently, on the shoulder of a tired child. The table, which had been smiling its mocking smile, did not finish the smile. Mr. Pemberton's brandy glass, which had been at his lips, lowered to the cloth. The city man at the end of the table, a younger one in a dark blue tie who I had not, in 3 hours, heard speak a kind word about anyone, closed his eyes. The fire in the grate gave a soft pop. Nobody else made a sound. Wesley played the whole Träumerei. He played it the way Vladimir Horowitz on the famous Moscow recording played it in 1986, slow, unhurried, with the long-held notes given their full breath, and the small ornament at the bar where the melody bows its head, taken so tenderly that the room felt itself bow its head with it. He let the last chord settle. He set his hands in his lap. He looked once at Mr. Pemberton. Mr. Pemberton did not speak. The table did not speak. Nobody clapped for a count of about 6 seconds. Then the youngest man at the table, the one in the dark blue tie, stood up. He clapped once, twice. Then he set his glass down and clapped properly, and the rest of the table stood, and the standing applause in the private dining room of Mason Vassour on a Tuesday night in November was the standing applause of 9 city men who had 3 drinks past their decency, walked into a room expecting to make a kitchen porter the brief amusement of their evening, and were now, every one of them, on their feet. Mr. Pemberton crossed the carpet. He stood in front of Wesley at the bench. He said, in a voice that was different from the voice he had used to summon him, "Young man, forgive me. I have spoken this evening in a way I am ashamed of. May I ask your name?" Wesley said, Wesley Arkafer, sir. And where did you train, Mr. Arkafer? At the conservatory in Lagos, sir, for 4 years. I came to this country 18 months ago. My qualifications have not yet been recognized by your professional bodies. I have been waiting for the paperwork to come through. The wash-up at Maison Vasseur has been kind work in the meantime. The table was very quiet. Mr. Pemberton looked at me across the room. The look on his face was a look I had not, in 9 years of seating Mr. Pemberton at the corner table downstairs, seen on his face before. It was the look of a man who has been allowed to see, by means of the only thing on earth that could have shown it to him, a thing about himself he would have preferred to go on not seeing. He turned back to Wesley. He said, Mr. Arkafer, I shall make certain inquiries tomorrow about your paperwork. The firm I am a partner at has a foundation. The foundation funds, among other things, the recognition of overseas musical qualifications in this country. I shall be in touch with you tomorrow through Etienne with the name of a barrister who handles these matters at no cost to the applicant. I shall personally cover the application fees. I shall also this evening, with your permission, quietly arrange, through our restaurateur here, a small private recital for an audience of perhaps 30 of our firm's clients at our partner's winter dinner next month, at a fee I shall name now in front of this table, as the fee a soloist of your level commands at such an evening. I have been a fool tonight. Please allow me to begin to make some part of it good. Wesley looked at me. I gave him no help. I have been a maître d' for 19 years. I do not advise the kitchen porter on what to do with a city man's apology in front of 9 of his colleagues. Wesley looked at Mr. Pemberton. He said, Sir, the lessons on the paperwork would be a great kindness. The recital I should be honored to give. He paused. Then he said very quietly, and sir, I should like to ask one thing in return. Anything, Mr. Arkafer? That when you come back to dine at Maison Vasseur, sir, and I hope you will, sir, because Etienne and the kitchen run a fine house, you do not, in future, send for any member of the back of the house as the brief amusement of your dinner. The kitchen and the wash-up and the porters who carry your dishes, we are tired, sir, by 10 o'clock at night. We work in steam. We work for long hours and small pay. We are glad of the work and we do not complain about it. But we are not, sir, your amusement. We are the people who make your meal. I should be glad if that small thing were understood. The table was silent. Mr. Pemberton's eyes did the small wet thing rich men's eyes do very occasionally when something true has been said to them by a person they have until that moment considered to be beneath them. He bowed his head. He said, Mr. Arkafer, you have my word on behalf of this table. We are sorry. Wesley nodded. He shook Mr. Pemberton's hand. He bowed once to the table and walked back across the carpet, in his apron and his black work clogs, out of the private dining room and down the back stairs to the wash-up corridor, where Daniel had already taken his place at the sink so that the porter could come back to a station that was not behind on its plates. I went downstairs 5 minutes later. I found Wesley back at his station, the rubber gloves on his hands again, his apron damp from the splash of the sink. I leaned against the doorframe. I said, Wesley, you have this evening surprised me. I should have asked you 11 months ago what you used to do for a living. I am sorry. He said, Etienne, you did not know, you could not have known. I have wanted to keep my head down. I am here to do the work. I am glad of it. I said, may I ask, why did you say yes tonight? He smiled, a small careful smile. He said, Etienne, I walk past that piano every night for 11 months. I have not played a Steinway since I left Lagos. I should not have said yes for the joke. I said yes for the piano. The piano did not deserve to be left to 9 drunk men. It deserved a young pianist who had been thinking for 11 months about how he would sit at it if he were ever asked. The recital at the firm's partner's winter dinner happened. Wesley played the Schumann Kinderscenen in its entirety. The 30 clients gave him a 15-minute standing ovation. The barrister whose name Mr. Pemberton sent him got his papers in order within 4 months. Wesley has, in the year since, given small public recitals at 3 concert halls in the city. He has begun to receive booking inquiries from further afield. He has this March left the wash-up at Maison Vasseur to take up a junior teaching post at the conservatory, on the express understanding written into his contract at his insistence that he be permitted in his off hours to continue to give the free Saturday morning piano lessons he had quietly begun 3 months earlier in a community hall in the part of the city where the children he had been growing up alongside in our wash-up corridor lived. Mr. Pemberton dines at Maison Vasseur once a month regularly with his wife. He sits in the corner downstairs. He is very polite to the waiters. He has, since the night of the Schumann, never once raised his voice in our building. On his last visit in May, He asked me, very quietly, before he left, whether the kitchen porter had still been managing his recital schedule from his junior teaching post. I said, "Mr. Pemberton, he has. He sends his regards." He nodded, he thanked me, he went out into the night. I keep in the small drawer of my maître stand a copy of the note Wesley sent me the morning after he was promoted off the waship to the conservatory teaching post. The note says, "Etienne, thank you for asking that November evening instead of telling. The piano sat in that corner waiting. You let it find me. Yours, W." I have read it many times in the month since. I have thought on the long quiet shifts about all the porters and night attendants in the city outside our doors, and about how many pianos in how many corners are sitting, even now, waiting. The job of the maître d', I have come to believe in my 62nd year, is not only to seat the guests. It is, on the rare evening it is asked of him, to bring the porter up from the waship corridor with grace, and to let the piano in the corner find the player it has been waiting 11 months for.